So she let me right in the house. It's like a fucking neighbor. And she went up to go to the kitchen to get the base bottle. I just followed her right in the back. I took one shot in the back of her head. That was it. And then I played stupid after that ever since.
As an innocent person, would never confess to a murder I never committed, ever. I would never utter them words, ever. And I can't see how anybody else would.
I did it all myself.
Anybody else know?
I was there. And so I truly believe that this is a true confession.
One shot. Yep. Straight in the back.
Oh, boy.
And haven't looked back since, buddy.
Because of what I had heard, I thought that there was no denying it was him.
Police have charged an Ontario man in connection with the shooting death of a young mother. But this is not the first time they've been on the suspect's trail.
Just this morning, police announced that they had charged and arrested Alan Smith once again.
I'm thinking Alan's done. Like, no matter which way this goes, he's not getting out.
Now, this is a very rare step for police to take. They are not commenting on the nature of the evidence, but they have charged him this time around with first-degree murder compared to the last time he was charged with second-degree murder. That's an indication that whatever evidence they have against him, they believe it's compelling enough that this time around, the charges will stick.
Well, I'm being wrongly accused for a murder. I did not kill Beverly Lynn Smith. I am innocent.
I first met him at the Central East Correctional. He appeared to be a frail, elderly man, and he certainly was not what you would expect when you're walking in to meet someone charged with first-degree murder.
Clearly, something emerged so that police would lay a charge of first-degree murder. Eventually, we learned about Mr. Big, and we learned just the breathtaking scope of this investigation and the lengths to which the police had gone. And we learned, ultimately, that Alan Smith had confessed.
Al went to jail upon his arrest in December of 2009 and remained there almost 5 years in total for a crime that I am certain he did not commit.
5 long years. Yeah. In there. And that's how it goes. You see no, you hear no, and you speak no. Or you'll get it. And I mean, you will get it.
He faces years and years in jail if he is convicted, and he needs to figure out a strategy to defend himself.
In a case where there's a Mr. Big operation, the confession is generally everything.
When a jury hears a confession, they have a very, very difficult time believing that it's not true. If the confession goes in, there is a high probability that Al Smith would be convicted of murder. No question.
But if it's not admitted, the Crown's going to fold because they don't have a case. The first thing we're going to do on a case like that is do a motion to exclude the statements.
Going to court's very overwhelming, and it's not what I expected it at all.
It was just a judge, so there was no jury, and it was considered what was called a pretrial.
A pretrial motion is basically an argument that's going to be made in court before something goes to trial. In this case, it was about whether or not police had crossed a line in terms of getting those confessions.
But the key point of the defense was that Alan Smith was under the thumb of the state to the extent that he had no way out. His confessions were coerced, they were false, and it's because of the immense pressure that was placed on him by the police.
After the second-degree murder charge is dropped, it's in 2008, I think the goal of the Durham Regional Police was to finally close the lid on this case, and something must have convinced them that they had the right person, they just didn't have the evidence.
They had concluded that Alan had done it, and it seems that nothing would hold them off that position.
Detective Leon Lynch of the Durham Police remains the lead on the case. Leon is an accomplished homicide investigator. But I think this case took him to a different place, to a place he hadn't been with another investigation.
These two windows you can see on the southwest corner here.
And I think that was as consuming for him as maybe anything.
Where we believe Beverly met her killer.
He wanted to be the hero. It was very clear that he wanted to be the hero and solve the oldest cold case.
And we're hoping that we'll come to a good conclusion for the family.
Typically, when you do a Mr. Big investigation, you bring undercover officers from outside the jurisdiction. Danny is the undercover officer who first befriended Alan Smith, and eventually he introduces him to his friend, Jack.
Of the 30 years that I was with the OPP, at least 25 of those years, I was an undercover operator. I've been large trafficker in narcotics. I've been a crime boss that's attempting to elicit information from murder suspects, but I never judged my work by the number of confessions and convictions. You know, I'm not playing a hockey game here. It's not a win or lose. I gather evidence.
So before they set up any Mr. Big scenario, they need to know as much as they can about their target. And they find very quickly that Al Smith has no friends, no job, a lot of health issues.
But you wouldn't have to spend more than 10 minutes with Al to know that he didn't care whether he was fishing in a kiddie pool or in the ocean. He just loved fishing.
The bump is when you first meet your target. Bump into the target or bump into the subject. And it can be any number of scenarios. In this case, it was a fishing trip. And that's how Danny first met Al.
They've got surveillance, and everybody is mic'd except for Al Smith. Everything's wired for sound. They know exactly what they're going to do.
Waited 8 fucking hours in a fish hut all day to get one bite on a whitefish. Because we live to fish all this time.
We went to court. We listened to hours and hours of tapes, hours and hours of conversations.
There was about 1,500 hours of audio, mostly of men fishing. When I listened to those tapes, it was like watching a movie, and what sounded like a very, very powerful relationship developing.
Al thinks he's found a new best friend.
You want the suspect to have a sense of trust, especially with the primary undercover officer.
Al and Danny talked almost every day. And Danny didn't just infiltrate Al's life. He infiltrated the lives of Al's family members as well.
Well, Sleeping Beauty, what are you doing? Let's get the truck loaded. Remember we said we were going to take the shit there to the dump thing?
Oh, yeah, okay. Those are big boxes. Well, not that, but those are full of just
You found the blue bin place? Fuck, I would have loaded smarter. I thought it was just the yard stuff. Is there anybody else in the family to move this weekend so I can make it like a 3-piece or anything? Or...
The most important thing was to really set out for the judge how emotionally and financially dependent on his buddies Al was.
They took over his spare time, his relationships with his families. They provided cigarettes when he couldn't afford to buy a package. That's taking over his life.
Hey, take your nap, put it with your rigging in there. Well, have a happy birthday, brother.
Love you, buddy.
You too, thanks, eh?
They want Al to be dependent on them so that it's not very easy and not very likely for him to walk away from the relationship.
A Mr. Big investigation is almost a last resort. The entire operation is geared towards getting a confession from one person.
I was the one that they thought had killed this girl. So I went in there on second-degree murder.
Fuck off.
No, I'm telling you the God's honest truth. I just got out of jail 6 months ago, eh?
But instead of getting a confession, the undercover new best buddy is getting a litany of complaints about how awful it was that he was charged with this murder.
And the Attorney General says when you go into court tomorrow morning, you tell them that all these charges are being dropped against this 57-year-old granddad who hadn't had a fucking thing to do with it other than he found the poor fucking girl laying in her house floor, which I did back in 1974.
So he doesn't say things that would suggest he did it. Now we're going to have to escalate it and then start involving him in crimes.
You have to kind of develop the element of criminality in the relationship. I mean, you're not going to go out with your grandmother and confess to a murder all of a sudden, right?
I was the Mr. Big. I had, a dozen plus scenarios with Al, maybe a little more. Once you have a relationship established, that's when the scenarios are drafted with an end goal in order to, in some way, elicit some form of conversation about the crime that you're investigating. And that is very loosely written and scripted.
Alrighty then, it's Thursday, June 25th. Sector Prisional. And today, I'm going to be leaving here. It's 11:07 by my truck's clock. Going to be picking up Al at his house. Going to be traveling to Toronto area, and we're going to be meeting another undercover police officer, second sergeant. We'll be simulating a drug-for-money transaction with 2 other undercover operators.
It was doing the shoot. All fucking trigger. Just in case, all right? That's all you gotta do.
We're up in the ante. We're introducing the firearm. We're dealing with some heavy hitters from Toronto. There's a lot more money. We're pushing the envelope.
You see anything that even remotely looks like a fucking piece?
Hey, both hands straight. Put your hands up in the air like fucking, stick them up.
Yeah, I'm on it, man.
We're pushing his comfort level to see at what point will he go, I don't want to do this.
Okay, he's just heading over now to the car. They've locked him out now. Franklin does a deal. That's what the book will be. With a basket full of blow. And there he is. He's got a bag, he's coming. So, here, hang on. All smooth?
Yeah, all smooth.
He participated in every criminal scenario that we put forth to him, willingly.
Monday, July 6, 2009. And the game plan for today is to go pick up Al at his house, with him to meet up with Detective Sergeant. And we're going to surveil as he does a reported drug deal with another undercover operator. And then the plan is for Al and I to retrieve drugs that's dealt to him by means of committing a robbery to recover them.
As soon as we started planning that robbery, we knew where we were going in the next few scenarios.
He'll go to a fucking hotel here somewhere. So, go fucking grab it. $80,000 fucking dollars and I get my fucking pot back? That's a banner fucking day as far as I'm concerned.
No problem, bro.
It was important for the judge to realize how powerful the inducements had become.
You want the suspect to have a sense of belonging, have a sense of trust and brotherhood.
What the fuck happened? Tell me.
He picked up the hand cannon, okay?
Yeah.
The kid seen the fucking barrel and he says, get in the fucking bathroom and lock that fucking door and put your head down, count to 100, and don't lift your fucking head up. Yeah.
Oh, that's fucking funny.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking, he is going to be pissed off. Oh, fuck.
He should be shitting his fucking drawers now.
Oh, beautiful. Woohoo, brother.
It was kind of like a ball rolling down a hill, and he didn't necessarily see it as an option to no longer do the things he was asked to do.
July 7th, 2009. It's 1:07 a.m. on the clock here in my truck. And the plan is now I'm heading over to Al Smith's house, and I'm going to pick him up.
So the police, after many, many months of Al professing his innocence, obviously feel that they need some more coercion, so they come up with this plan for the body dump.
We're heading off to hook up with Detective Sergeant, the OPP, and we're going to help him dispose of some evidence of a reported crime that he has committed.
Fishing buddy shows up, like 1 in the morning. Wake up, wake up.
Hey, Al. Al. We gotta go.
Okay, I met with that fucking guy. He tried something. He's no longer around, okay?
What really happened was they got a mannequin and wrapped it up in a tarp. So that was the dead guy. Jack is covered in blood. It was sheep's blood that they had used.
And Jack's instructions are, get rid of this corpse.
And when you're fucking done, call me, right? Let's start heading up to the front cottage.
They faked a murder. And then they order Al to be an accessory after the fact.
We took it right to the edge of what would be considered acceptable, but I don't think we crossed that edge.
Come over, guys. Move it back. 3, 1.
Get all your shit in the
Just rock on out of here.
So what does that do to somebody who's already emotionally and psychologically fragile? To let them think that they threw a dead body over a cliff with their best friend.
What are you smelling?
That's just the weather. I feel like I'm almost ready to puke. I was racing like you have no fucking idea.
No, I have a fucking very good idea.
It's dark. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's a place he's never been before with no transportation. And the police and the Crown seriously argue that he should have said no and walked away. Like, it's absurd and obscene.
I was waiting for the first opportunity to get out and to hitchhike home. But that, I often thought, well, if I do that, what kind of power has this guy got against my family? Remember, I think he's a mob boss. Truly.
It's freaking the fuck out of me. Yeah. Did he give you a map of the cottage? Yeah, I got it. No doubt that's where he's headed, right? Fuck.
So after they get to the cottage, Al doesn't go to sleep. He pretends to go to sleep, but he's up all night, and the police are well aware of that. And they have a meeting and discuss the fact that they know Al is terrified.
All I'm saying is he is at the fucking point of being fucked up, okay? Okay. And he, has already said 4 or 5 times, this is too much, man. This is way too much. This is, fucking over the top.
He's fucked up. He thinks I'm gonna come in there and fucking shoot him.
You try to keep a professional attitude and a professional outlook, but we're looking at evoking a strong emotion, and he was uncomfortable. Absolutely he was.
I mean, this kid knew, this is 34 years ago, a game. He's been digging in his fucking head all day.
We're trying to get truthful information on a cold case homicide. So where do you draw the line?
They're cognizant of the fact that a confession given under duress, when someone is not in their right mind, might ultimately not stand up in court.
But luckily for us, we're not fucking Creston's children, and we can't read fucking people's minds, Your Honor. If I could, I would be able to tell you what he's thinking, but I have no idea what he's thinking.
At one point, the police forgot to turn off their sound equipment.
There's been banging downstairs since he went down there. No. Banging. So I don't know if stuck his feet are bouncing off the wall. He hung himself, and it's like his feet tapping the wall as the furnace comes on. Moves the air. And yeah, he was really fucking sweating. Really? Yeah, major. He's so wound, he's so rangy. He's obviously afraid.
During the preliminary hearing, the undercover officers testified, we didn't have any concerns about his mental state. We thought he was fine. But here they are discussing the fact that this guy's frantic. He's in a bad state of mind.
His psychiatric records were replete with references to prior attempted suicide. And one of those occasions, Al did attempt to hang himself.
Those records had been obtained by the police in the investigation in 2008. But you review these psychiatric records, and you should know that this is a vulnerable person who is far too easily manipulated, far too easily coerced.
You would be given information that you needed, but nothing more. And what you need isn't a determination that the undercover guy makes, it's the investigators who make that determination. I wasn't aware of any mental health issues that Al had before any of the court proceedings.
Just thinking, tomorrow we're going for the gusto, right? You know what I mean? The whole Frank and Beans here are going to be puked out. He's either going to do it tomorrow or he isn't.
So, if there's ever going to be a fucking time to want to give it up,
that would be that.
That would be the time.
Very.
Well, the plan is to say that we've got a problem now. You could get me in a lot of trouble. So how are we going to have security?
Security, knowing that you're not going to fucking rat me out and send me away on a first-degree fucking murder piece. That's what I want. Well, I can tell you right now.
And Al has a murder he could talk about.
You remember the murder?
What, the thing that I saw on the internet there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What happened?
I was in
My buddy Dave and I had set up this guy, Doug. Yeah. We watched him for the longest time. So he got in 40 pounds of weed. Back then, him and I were good.
Who's Dave?
Dave Munder. We had it set up that when Doug went to work, at General Motors at 6 at night, we were going in just shortly after to get the 40 pounds.
Where does the 40 pounds of marijuana come from? Well, that was the exact amount of marijuana that was part of this fake robbery that they'd had him involved in only a couple of days earlier.
I'm doing a 40-pound deal with him, all right? So go fucking grab it.
I went in, I ran upstairs, got the 40 pounds. He was downstairs, he had a 22 with him just for backup. Yeah. Now, she ran toward the cupboard, and Dave doesn't know what she was running for the cupboard for, whether it was a handgun, just a normal rifle, whatever. So he went to the back there.
And was it the deflector?
Dave Munder.
So instead of getting a confession to murder, he brings in Munder.
Green chair there for me. Al knows that Dave Munder pointed the finger at him in 2007. Al was not happy with this.
Yeah, Al was at the house.
Al was at the house?
He was definitely at that house.
On the night of the murder?
On the night of the murder.
Al took the opportunity to pin it on Dave Munder. I'm not going down for this. I'm going to pin it on this son of a bitch, Dave Munder.
And it was at this point where Danny stepped out and left Al alone at the cottage for a while, and he met up with Detective Leon Lynch. And they discussed this revelation about Dave Munder.
Okay, you fucked Al over a bit. You fucking helped tour him. Al was blaming him to alleviate him and his life that he's getting out of it.
Al Smith is trying to tell a story that makes some sense. Munder's the one that shot her, and he had just bizarre stuff. But he's given the police what they want. They want a confession to murder. We can work with that.
First thing he said is I was involved in the murder. Right off the bat. You know what I mean? We went there to rob the pot, bang on about all the names, where it happened, where the pot was in the fucking house, everything. Okay. Fucking pretty good. It is pretty good. Now he's got to put the right players behind that trigger.
And as we later find out, Al tells his fishing buddy it's not true. I made it up. I was scared to death. That's obviously not what they want either.
They just dug their heels in deeper at that point. They fly David Munder in. He was somewhere in the prairies, Alberta, I think, at the time.
The idea was to put Al and Dave together in a room that's recorded, to get Al Smith to confess.
I've put in my brain 1,000 times myself, Al. Who could have done it in action? Because it was somebody who knew us. What was it, me, man? Who could have done it? I don't know. And then they said, well, what about this Al guy? I said, I don't know. I said, all I know is, because I did ask you for a house spot. Remember, I asked you for a house spot. You said you were going over to the next door neighbors to get it. Yeah, but that was what, buddy, and that one detective, Lynn, she was just relentless. He'd walk past me and he'd go, gotcha. And I'd say, dumb fuck, how many times am I gonna fucking tell you? It ain't over, man. You're so far fucking off. You haven't even done it yet.
Al's livid. So Al leaves the room. So everything has gone for a shit.
They weren't getting what they were after. So finally, the three men, the two undercover officers and Al, arranged a summit, which was to be pretty much their final meeting.
I don't want to hear the bullshit today. It's fucking dirt time on the table. Get the fuck out of here.
Look,
You had me scared shitless.
So what were you scared about?
Dropping bodies off in ravines for one thing, and then being questioned. And I didn't know what to do, what to say. I just wanted to get out of there, so I came up with a story, and that's the story I gave you, and I stuck to it.
You're fucking. I think you're lying to me again. Like, did you do it? Did you do it? Like, I just got to know. There's just three of us sitting here in the fucking truck, man.
No, I did not, or I would still be in jail.
Go ahead, Al. Tell him what you're...
I just want facts for it.
But the only way it's going to work is if I get the fucking truth out of you.
Well,
like, what happened with that
I'm innocent as the day long.
Well, what happened with that girl?
I have no idea.
I think there are actually 9 protestations of innocence in that conversation.
I don't know how to fucking deal with that.
Well, I'm not I didn't do it. I'm not about to say I did.
Maybe they're just not going to get it. Then they make one more run at it, and the pressure is reapplied.
Like, it's just that we're at an impasse here because...
How do I know you don't want to send me back up into jail again?
You guys got me over a fucking barrel. I was fucking prepared to I would have done anything for you fucking guys. I would have I wanted to give you part of my business.
Well, we wanted that too, okay?
Let's leave it and live on, okay? Let's bury it. It's gone. I don't want no more part of it. Christ almighty, can I just goddamn go fishing and retire like an old man and not know fuck all? Yeah, that's the way I want it.
You got anything?
Well, I wish things had a turn.
I was fully prepared to go, okay, well, we've done what we can. He's not biting. He's saying he didn't do it. So that's it. That's, we're done here.
Al's afraid.
I get that.
He's afraid to tell you he clipped her because you then do have it on him, okay? You got to alleviate his concerns. Once he fucking says it, once you get your things, is this it? Is this over?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Look.
You tell me
if I tell you this, fuck's sake.
And it was right there when he said that. His tone changed and his demeanor changed.
Dave had nothing to do with it. It was me.
Okay.
I did it all myself. And she never did get to see any fucking gun. I did a terrible thing when I was a young man. And,
so you knew the pot was there?
Yeah. Got green nuts.
Was she close?
Yeah.
How close?
10 feet.
Holy moly. You okay, brother? It's over, man. We're done.
I felt I was facing the last person that had seen Beverly alive. I was seeing the monster that she had seen.
He had his back turned completely to me, which has never happened. He was usually, always looking over at us, and the tone was different in that confession, and he was crying, and it was just like a big release for him.
Well, if you're gonna act it out, do it properly, and that's what I had to do. That fake crying and all the rest of it. That's terrible for a man to have to go through that.
I think that's the first time I've seen you upset.
You're getting core there, eh?
That was raw truth, wasn't it?
That's called core deep.
Yeah.
You've gutted my insides out. I feel better, though.
Gee, really, brother?
Yeah. Well, now you got me by the deep, long ones.
You're going to tell him anything that satisfies him in order for you to get out that door. I manufactured a story that ended up being a confession to Beverly Smith's murder to save my own life.
knowing that the decision's coming down, we were cautiously optimistic.
Al Smith's life, for all intents and purposes, depended on this decision.
I'm petrified. I'm spraying to Mom. I go, Mom, I'm not so sure about this. If you're listening, it doesn't sound like Alan's gonna get out.
R versus Smith, Superior Court of Justice, between Her Majesty the Queen and Alan Smith.
His account of the 1974 murder of Beverly Smith
Has many holes in it. One might say that you could drive a Mack truck through the accounts to the point
You would question whether this was nothing more than a pack of lies.
it is the product of pressure by state agents in an adversarial role, even though they were not known to be police officers.
He was making all kinds of incriminating statements to people that he didn't know were police officers. And ultimately, that had been a violation of his right to remain silent.
This is an example of an abusive process. The confession was not voluntary.
The judge said he felt in his mind that the confession was coerced.
Oh, boo-hoo.
There will be an order excluding the admissions to killing Beverly Smith, as well as related statements by Alan Smith.
And without the confessions, the Crown didn't feel there was enough evidence to carry on.
Game over, he walked out.
I'm free, I'm gone.
Al stood up and he did a double fist pump, and it just really pissed me off.
You could hear Beverly Smith's sister and daughter yell, "Murderer."
He was going to get off scot-free.
And I basically just said, who you should be getting pissed off at is those cops.
I just looked at him and I said, she will never forgive you. And Becky said to Al, you're a fucking loser.
I grabbed him by the arm, and he looked at me and he goes, "Mary, is it for sure, like I'm getting out?" But I go, "Alan, you're done. There's no more."
Alan Dale Smith left Oshawa Court for possibly the last time a free man.
They not only crossed the line, but they trampled it, and it resulted in a false confession.
I'm actually glad that the ordeal is over with, and I'm looking forward to spending much time with my family.
It never crossed my mind that he would get off on a technicality.
A technicality. These were charter violations that these officers committed. The charter is the highest law that we have in Canada. It's ingrained in our Constitution. Police officers swear an oath to uphold the Constitution, to uphold the charter. And so when police officers conduct themselves in such an egregious way that a judge hearing all of the evidence says, I cannot accept this evidence, that's not a technicality, but it should be an indictment against the police.
One of the biggest criticisms of this case is that it's a clear example of tunnel vision.
How could you focus on Alan Smith when so many others were good suspects in the case? That's tunnel vision.
Lynch had it out for me from the get-go that I was the guy. Those cops did nothing but just tunnel vision me, and I live it every motherfucking day. These pricks. And they need to be taught a lesson.
But in fact, the judge in this case found that there wasn't tunnel vision. He was satisfied that police had explored other avenues and come to Al Smith, honestly. At the time of this investigation, there weren't real guardrails around Mr. Biggs. Police were still sort of feeling out what they were allowed to do.
It was found by Judge Glass that we had crossed the line. The judge did say that the methods that we utilized would offend society, and we would call that the public shock test, I suppose. Nobody was coming up to us at that time, and nor was there anything in writing saying, this is one of the things that you can't do. We were flying by the seat of our pants, per se, and, you know, Judge Glass said that we can't do that, and we don't do that anymore.
I don't have any ill feelings about the police because what they gave me was the name that I needed.
It isn't easy to see the power of the state take over somebody's life and ruin it. And this case with Al Smith is a clear example. Not a single officer got their knuckles round. Not a single officer was in any way disciplined.
I still maintain that I heard a true confession that day, and I believe that Al Smith shot Beverly Smith.
I think that the police were right, and I think that they did what they felt necessary to get a confession out of Alan Smith. In my mind, Alan Smith murdered my sister, and I would like to see justice done.
My gut says yes, he did. Don't know why. Okay. Can't prove it in a court of law. Judge said no. But my gut feeling, listening to all of this, he did.
The family of Beverly Smith has been re-victimized over and over and over again. I can't imagine how frustrating and heartbreaking it must be to be told for years we got the right guy, and then to have it fall apart.
I don't remember her having this purse. After she died, it was given to my mom, and my mom had it tucked away for years and years and years, and then she passed it on to Becky. Becky has left it here for me, and I've never opened it up. I guess I felt I wasn't ready.
She wasn't just a person who was murdered. She was a mother, a wife, a sister, a daughter. She was beautiful. She had so many talents, and she had such a life ahead of her. And her life got cut short.
I was 22 when I had my first child, so I started thinking, like, when he turned 10 months, I started thinking that's how old I was. And, you know, I outlived my mom. Some days it doesn't bother me, and other days it's all I can think about.
I guess roughly we're around 11 years or so since I've held a fishing rod or even thought about casting a few into the proverbial lakes and stuff. Fishing, yeah, it's a gift. Catch 1 or 2 fish. Remember all the days that you've had that have been good for you. Not afraid to admit I got hooked in. Line and sinker. But, now that I get an opportunity to have a crack at this fishing thing again, I just might take it up in short doses.
The biggest tragedy when you go after the wrong people is that your real one got away. The real killer got away. And that's what happened here.
The sunfish. You know how you take them off? There you go. Ready? No worries, buddy. No fucking worries. Believe me.
I believe that Alan did it still. But I am open to learning anything new, because if he is innocent, I don't want anybody innocent being blamed for it. Just, that's not going to give me any satisfaction. I want to concentrate on my own children, and concentrate on them, and for them to be happy. But I don't think there's ever going to be justice.